We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll start off with our invocation, which is from Pastor Woods, which will be followed by Boy Scouts troop. See if I read 394. Thank you. Yeah, please rise.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. Let's pray. God, we give you thanks for this wonderful city, for these leaders and community members gathered here, and for all of the individuals who live, work, learn, or play in Cerritos. As we gather here today, we acknowledge the honor and responsibility to serve the people of this city, and we humbly ask for guidance, wisdom, and strength in our deliberations and decisions. May we approach our tasks with open hearts and minds, seeking the common good and the well-being of all residents. Let us be instruments of harmony and understanding, fostering an environment where diverse voices are heard and valued. Grant us the clarity to make decisions that reflect the highest ideals of progress and well-being for our community. May our efforts this evening leave a positive and lasting impact on our city and its residents. Would you richly bless the city of Cerritos, this council, and this evening. Amen.
Color guard attention. Color guard forward march. Color guard halt. Those in civilian clothing, please place your right hand over your heart. Those in scout uniform, please scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard post colors. Color guard regroup. Audience at ease.
A special thank you to Pastor Aaron Woods from the Pastor of Engagement, New Life Community Church, and also to Boy Scout Troop 394. And if we have our city clerk call the roll call, please.
At this time, the roll call will be conducted. Council and Agency Member Johnson.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Vo.
Present.
Council and Agency Member Yokoyama.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and Vice Chair Solanki.
Present.
Mayor and Chair Barrows.
Present. Next, I'm pleased to bring forth our business spotlight, which is for LA Triumph Medgear. The city of Cerritos showcases a local business every month to foster pride in Cerritos' thriving business community and the strong local economy. A proclamation will be presented to LA Triumph Medgear for their being selected as part of the city's business recognition program. They're doing business as Medgear Inc., which is a women minority-owned business and a leading supplier of high-quality uniforms and workwear based in Cerritos. The company has been in operation for over 50 years and has built a reputation for providing top-notch products and services to customers in various industries. The company's product line under the Medgear Chef Code brand includes a wide range of uniforms and workwear, including medical scrubs, I should say, chef coats, lab coats, industrial materials, and others designed to meet unique needs of customer and of various industries. They also offer a range of services, including embroidery, screen printing, and custom designs to help customers create unique and professional uniforms. They're doing business as Medgear Inc., located at 13336 Alondra Boulevard, here in Cerritos. Their phone number is 562-404-7657, and their website is medgear.com. Do we have a representative from Medgear here? If you can meet me over here, we get the proclamation for you. Well, we're very pleased to present this proclamation to you. Would you like to share something about your business? Introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Hafiz Lakhani. This is my mom, Hasina. She's the owner of our company. The bio pretty much said it all. We'd like to thank city council members and mayor, of course, for honoring us. We've been in Cerritos for, I think, almost 18 years now, and we're just happy to serve the community.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say something?
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
the
you, really.
president, so
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's really an honor for us to be here.
it's an
Thank
honor
you.
to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, if I can get my council colleagues to come up for a photo. And if we have you step down here on the first step.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll take the mic so you don't have to hold it. Okay. Right here. Okay. And what's that your mom? Yeah. She is the president, right?
She's the boss.
She's the boss.
Okay. Everybody right over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
She wants to invite.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
She wants to invite. I just want to invite her for the picture. Oh, yeah. She's like a
Now,
family.
should I stand down here?
Yeah.
Could be more the same height.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Important person. I'm the worker. You're the most important person.
In front right there. Everybody. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. So I keep this?
Yes, you get to keep that.
Thank you.
No, he called and canceled.
He's in severe pain from working on a prosthetic. Next, this is the time for public comments on anything not on the agenda. And the time limit will be 5 minutes for each speaker. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
Good evening, Hayes Vanderlinden, resident since 1971, same location. I'd like to talk about safety.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for,
I'd be curious to find out what is the true story on the rumor that we are gonna get speed cameras installed in Cerritos. There's a rumor going around that we are gonna pursue that. If that is true, I wholeheartedly applaud that. Because right now, we have an ongoing situation in Cerritos, which I'm pretty sure you're all aware of. It's not all that copacetic. I'm also curious, what is the position as far as citations on people who have tinted windows to the point of the drivers, you cannot even see the steering wheel? There's more and more cars driving around in Cerritos, and you're 9 or 10 times, that is future trouble. I mean, anybody who's driving around in a car that don't want to be seen from the outside, that's not copacetic. I hope that City of Cerritos law enforcement is really looking into that and at least issue fix-it tickets. I don't know that that is happening at all. Curious to get some feedback on that. I do want to congratulate Robert on his position. I also can say that I'm sorry that Tori is no longer with Cerritos. You guys lost a very dedicated guy. Over the years, I have dealt with him, very professional, very good, and I'm sorry that he is no longer with the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Van der Linden. Do we have any other speakers? I mean, I don't have any cards.
No, there are no cards. As far as speakers who have signed up to speak on our electronic cards, we have Nisha Sharma.
Okay, and I see the list. Thank you.
I'm gonna have my dad go first real quick for the Sharma.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have a little bit of a presentation to make as far as the whole thing is concerned. My name is Pradeep Sharma. I have actually lived over here for over 30 years. And the reason for my presentation is basically over the period, I've noticed that there's 3 city trees ranging from 60 foot to 100 foot, which are 2 African friend pine and 1 eucalyptus. They are that tall, which is about 60 to 80 foot, 100 foot tall. And all they've done is over the years, the situation has got worse regarding these trees, especially eucalyptus tree, the one which I'm talking about. Time to time, broken branches landed in my backyard. I'm sure everybody else in the city has experienced these kind of trees which are causing an issue. As recent as January the 1st, 2023, due to COVID, I was into the room at the next to the backyard, and all of a sudden a 15-foot branch fell over my roof, landed and damaged my roof. I put a claim and was rejected. Obviously by the city, they rejected it. They said, well, sorry, this is due to the nature. We cannot do anything about it. And so the next thing what happened was I said, okay, that's one thing which we can deal with. Now currently, I've noticed that, well, this called tortoise beetles have actually landed on my backyard, and they're continuously landing for past maybe about 3 months. They've been landing on my backyard and causing a big issue. And then also, which I noticed is which we have caterpillars, which are floating around at the back. And I have a small pet, which normally walks at the back. I had a mother-in-law 2 years ago. She passed away, but she was paralyzed. And she used to sit at the backyard, causing a problem because all the branches fall. Time to time, they came down, but I took care of it most of the time. I even reported to the city. I said to the city that, could you take care of it? Occasionally, they came to clean the mess. And that was it. And then as far as arborist was concerned, I recently spoke to an arborist and mentioned it to him that, well, this is the situation I have. Could you do something about it? About 2 weeks ago, I think I spoke to him when they were cutting the trees on 183rd. And I said, well, okay, this is what's been done over there. They said, this is because of the sidewalks which have been lifted, and so we are taking care of that. That's why we had to cut the tree. I said, what about these 3 trees? I have a 50-foot wide backyard. There are 3 trees, actually just right at the back. 2 of them on side and 1 eucalyptus. Concern about eucalyptus is it's actually over my roof completely. And the arborist says, well, we'll have a look at it. And so far, I haven't had the gentleman come or call me to say that, well, something is going on, and then we'll take care of it. And that is my issue. From time to time, I've had that calling the city, reporting it, and nothing comes out of it. And that has been going on. So I'll present my daughter. I have a daughter
Okay,
who's with me.
before you leave, and can you stop the clock for a moment?
Yeah.
Because we do allow you 5 minutes, but for us to interact with you, we
Okay.
stop it for that reason. My understanding, and the staff might be able to correct me, but if you file a claim, we basically have to go ahead and reject the claim. It's then appealed to someone else to look at it, but you have to continue to push a little bit
Okay.
before we can even settle a claim. So, the normal process, though, is to, deny that claim. And it's something that every city has to go through. So even when it's obvious that, our city did something that caused it, we still have to go through the same process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if our new upcoming, city manager, do you have anything you can add to that, or a staff member?
Thank you, Mayor. I've asked our public works staff to provide their contact information to the gentleman and to follow up and look into the issue.
Okay. But if you can also, point them that how to appeal that decision, and then so we can move forward on it.
Okay.
And we have a member of the board, that sits over the insurance authority for us. Maybe, Chunk, go ahead and say something.
Generally speaking, that would be Carl Warren. That handles those type of claims. It's a contracted claims company that comes into all the cities that are under JPIA. If I'm not mistaken, and again, the Public Works would confirm it, but the claims that normally get denied, it is generally, they call it act of God or act of nature.
That's what I was. That was
yes.
written on there. Actually, sort of act of God.
Yeah.
But I can understand that part. Act of
Yes.
God, yes. Now the question is, if the same tree was, rather than in city limits, if it was in my backyard, and the neighbor had that issue, and it went on the neighbors, fell on there, and then what would happen in that case? That's what I'm trying to
yeah,
just question.
So to continue, what I was trying to say is, normally speaking, under act of God, a tree limb or something that does fall, and if your vehicle or your person sometimes is in the public right of way, that's difficult to approve. But in this case, you said it hit your house, so that's something that you can appeal. I'll also relay it on to the Public Works and the city attorney to further add to that. But because I did just recently have a case like this, and I did contact Carl Warren because we had a meeting with them, and this is how they explained it to me. But generally speaking, the professionals, though, is going to be those who actually deal with the claims themselves. And I would defer to, Robert or our assistant city attorney if they have any further to add to that.
I left some photographs for you to look at. In fact, there's a bundle of those.
We got.
And then in your own good time, please have a look at it. And I would even suggest somebody, even council members, to come and just have a look at it by yourself so that you have a first-hand experience of what's going on, actually. I'm fine, we have the specialists to take care of everything, but unfortunately, the question is that, well, I've been here for over 30 years. I've cleared it myself. I take care of it. I don't normally dispute with anything. The only question I have is, well, when the bills start coming in, I said, these are now creeping onto my home. And then basically, I have a pet, myself, my wife, and I have a daughter who comes time to time. Okay, she's there. And then, so that is the issue we have. That's all I think I would like to mention. Can I have my daughter, Nisha Sharma, to say a few words?
Yeah, and
Certainly.
yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to touch base a little bit. First, Mr. Barrows, I actually went to high school with Jessica. I just wanted to tell her hi.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll pass that on to her.
I'm like, so the biggest concern really at this point is that it's just our backyards kind of become unusable for the most part. I mean, yes, the branch on New Year's Eve caused damage, but I don't think that's really the concern anymore. We can't even, our dog, poor guy, he can't even go outside to pee anymore, like in the backyard, because there's these bugs and these beetles all over the place. I mean, they're everywhere. And randomly, branches do fall. I think there's pictures he sent over think Connie used to work here, or I don't think she's here anymore. My dad has had several emails with her back and forth in 2020, 2021. Nothing's gotten done. I mean, so that's, and then, to see on New Year's Eve, this big old 15, foot branch fall and break the roof and cause damage, it's like frustrating. So I think his biggest concern is just, we want our backyard to be usable, and the trees are over the yard, and to you saying the Carl Warren, I know he's been, that's true, they did deny it, took them 8 months to deny it, first of all. I do workers' comp, so I know how claims go and adjusters are. So, I mean, it says now, get an attorney, do this, and nobody wants to go through that. You guys don't want to go through that. We don't want to go through that. Just if we can get it fixed, just in an easier way. Maybe someone come by, like he's saying, look at it. So at least you guys can kind of take a look. Someone can take a look and see what's going on. It's mostly just the lack of response that has been frustrating. That's all, really. So.
Mayor, if I may. Your appointed, the claims taken a while was true. We've addressed that. I believe Robert can also add to that too, but I've also addressed Public Works in regards to this, and Carl Warren in regards to how long a claim takes for the city of Cerritos to process. And it was a staffing issue. And I know on the JPIA side, we fixed it. And so on the Cerritos side, we have as well. So I think commonly now, an average claim would be a few months. Is that fair? Or less?
Yeah.
At the 8 month is definitely unacceptable. It was for me when I heard how long some of the claims took.
Yeah.
So we've worked hard on that to make sure we have enough staff now.
Yeah, especially because now he's like, I told my dad, we'll file one with your insurance, and then if anything, they can file a subrogation claim against Cerritos, their insurance, but he can't file one with his insurance. It's past the statute. It's 6 months or something, he said. So he can't file the claim with his insurance now either. So, we're kind of in a pickle with that particular situation. But like I said, that's not why we're here specifically. It's just the overall tree issue,
And I know staff will contact you and resolve this somehow.
No, that's all. That's literally all we want. So he would be the happiest person, and so would I, because he calls me all the time asking me stuff about it. So it would save me a lot of time too.
Okay,
Thank you guys so
Manisha?
much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, a question I have is El Rancho Verde Park was partly created because of all the insects that were infecting the homes from the weeds that were just growing wild, underneath the power lines. So we went to a lot of trouble to work with, the city of La Palma to create that park. If we have a tree that's known for causing problems, and eucalyptus trees are known for being very brittle, breaking, and they're known throughout the world as widow makers. And so, when I look at, the very tall eucalyptus trees that we have, thinking back to the problems in Newport Beach, where they, one crushed the car when a lady was driving, beneath it when it fell on her. Shouldn't we've gone after some of the blue gum, trees, the biggest ones. But when I look at the photos here of the insects, and knowing that the branches, when they're 15 feet tall, we had one of our volunteers on patrol, get injured. Shouldn't we start, removing these other trees?
If I may, Mayor, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. We have done a review of trees citywide, and it's an ongoing review. We have removed certain trees that were deemed to be potentially problematic. And with every street project that we do, we evaluate all the existing trees, and certain species are identified for removal. And as I mentioned, our public works staff will contact the resident. We'd be happy to take a look at these trees in particular and see what options there are for addressing the issue.
Okay. Could you get a memo back to us on that?
Sure, will do.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Alfred Reyes.
All right. Good evening, members of the council. How about a little Matthew to start with? Let's leave Matthew for later. Anyway, just happy to be here tonight. I missed the last 2 meetings. I was at concerts, Samantha Fish, San Juan Capistrano. Jeff and I are working on getting her here. That was a long way to drive for a concert, and I'm probably not gonna do that again, but it was a fantastic show. A couple things. One, I got the last 2 meetings a month. Congratulations, Ms. Titus. She did a wonderful job over the summer with the small park program, as she always does, as well as the free concerts in the park. They were fantastic as always. Still talking to Captain Drew and Daryl about reopening or what we have to do to reopen a substation at the mall. I will be harping on that ad nauseum, so you'll be hearing that from me quite a bit. Also, Jeff is doing a fantastic job with the theater. We opened, as we said, I think I was here a month ago, talked about Trace Adkins and Boz Skaggs. A couple weeks ago, we had Dire Straits at the theater. Linda was there, I was there, it was amazing. And you never know who you're gonna meet at the Surreal Sheraton, because I have a picture with Dire Straits at the Cornerstone Bar, which is, we were having water and toast. But anyway, we were at the bar and it was great, and they're really great guys, and so people should like go to the theater, and they should go to the Sheraton, they should go to the town center, they should patronize the city we live in. As I've said before, I'm a huge believer of invest where you live, go to where you live. That's why, you know, it was a great show, and I'm sure Samantha Fish will play here sooner rather than later. However, it just bothers me I have to drive 40 miles to get entertainment when I have a theater across the street. That makes no sense, especially someone like Samantha Fish, who is an up-and-comer. She sold 500 tickets. She's gonna probably sell 1,000 in our theater. She's a big blues artist. Again, if you ever want to talk to me about any of the artists that I've been pushing to get in the theater, Jeff has heard it as ad nauseum. I'd be more than happy to tell you why they would fit our profile, whether we're in lyrical seating at 1,400 or maxed out at 1,800 in arena seating. I always talk about artists that will actually play our theater. Beyonce's not coming. Sorry, she's not going to show up. You know, we couldn't afford her anyway if she wanted to. So that's just the way it is. Having said that, again, there's business night I am not going to stick around for, simply because, again, I think I just don't want to waste 3 hours of my life. So in any event, the Dodgers are on. I have things to do. Keep doing what you're doing. Again, congratulations to Sherry. Congratulations to Captain Drew and Daryl. They're doing a great job. Jeff, you and I will keep talking. I know Jeff is probably tired of me texting him and calling him. And what about 24, 25? What are we going to do next year? What about this? How are we going to sponsor a show? Oh, and we still need to talk about sponsoring a show. We talked about that as well. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jocelyn Amado.
Greetings, City Council members. My name is Jocelyn Amado, and I stand before you today to talk about and advocate for the opening of the permanent food trucks within our community. This proposal is not just about street food, but it's about fostering and thriving inclusive and vibrant city that embraces innovation and diversity. By allowing permanent food trucks, we open the door to a world of flavors and cultures. Our city has always been a melting pot of diverse backgrounds, and this is an opportunity to celebrate that diversity through cuisines. From tacos to sushi, permanent food trucks can bring the world to our doorstep without having to drive farther away to get a taste of these foods. Our city grows when the neighborhood businesses grow. Many of the owners of the permanent food trucks are dedicated business people that live nearby. Giving them a year-round operation will increase employment, local spending, and our economy. Some of the most famous cities in the world are known for their food truck scenes. By embracing permanent food trucks, we not only create a unique selling point for tourists, but also encourage them to spend more time and money in our city. This can be a significant source of revenue for our local businesses and our city coffers. I understand that there's concerns about food and safety and zoning laws are paramount. However, these concerns can be addressed through thoughtful regulations. We can ensure that food trucks meet health and safety standards, adhere to zoning regulations, and operate responsibly within our city. In closing, I implore you to understand the countless benefits that permanent food trucks can bring to our city. It is an opportunity to make our city more vibrant, inclusive, and economically prosperous. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council at this time? Okay, seeing none, if our city clerk has any that were submitted directly, to her
No,
via
thank
the
you,
internet
Mayor.
or letters. Okay, thank you. We'll close public comments, move to the consent calendar. I'm looking for a motion.
Can I please?
Yes, Frank, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Can I please remove item 7C and item 7D from the consent calendar for separate discussion?
Certainly. Okay, and with that, will you make a motion for the other items?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar exception with 7C and 7D.
Second.
Okay, and Robert, can we, well, let's do the motion first, then we'll do 7C and 7D separately. If we can have a vote?
We have a motion by Councilmember Yokoyama, and I'm sorry, I didn't hear a second to remove.
No, it's moved by
I move.
Councilmember
Motion
Vo,
by Vo
seconded
and
by
seconded by Frank.
Frank.
To approve the consent calendar
Yeah,
with the
it-
exception of items.
Except for those two items.
Excuse me, thank you. And Mayor, if I can just announce, tonight is the first time we will be using our electronic voting system without conducting a verbal roll call vote, if that is correct. And as that is the case, I'll be taking some additional time tonight to ensure that all votes are entered into the system as intended by the council. After a motion is made and seconded, I will confirm the motion and second, and electronic voting will be opened. When I see that all council members have voted, I will verbally request confirmation that all have entered their final vote. If you need to change your vote, you may simply select another icon on your screen accordingly prior to confirming your final vote and the conclusion of the live voting. And at this time, we have a motion by Councilmember Yokoyama, Councilmember Vo, and seconded by Councilmember Yokoyama to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items C and D. You may now enter your vote on the screen. Has everyone entered their final vote?
Yes.
I'm good. I'm good.
And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Robert, can you bring 7C forward?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. For item 7C, I'm actually going to defer to our Assistant City Attorney to provide a summary.
May I make a comment? I just wanted to vote on it separately. If any of the other council members would like a presentation, I'm not asking for that. I just wanted to vote on 7C separately from the entire consent calendar.
Okay, but I think since it's pulled out, the audience needs to know what, more specifically about it.
Thank you.
I think that Frank only is looking for the voting for the 9C, right, Frank?
Yeah, I only wanted to vote on 7C separately from the consent calendar.
No, we still, I think for the audience,
Okay.
when you pull it separate, we have to go ahead and make it more open. And our attorney is shaking his head, yes, also.
Yes, no, I'd be happy to provide a quick summary. As the council knows and has been noticed in various public meetings to date, our esteemed city manager, Art Galucci, has announced his retirement back in December of 2022. As a result of that process, the city sent out an RFP and interviewed a variety of different people for the position of city manager. And after a series of deliberations on September 14th, 2023, during this last regular meeting before this council voted by a majority to appoint Mr. Robert Lopez as the new city manager on effective, I apologize, I don't know the specific effective date, November 4th, and then directed the city attorney, as well as Mr. Wilson, who was the consultant we were using for the recruiting process, to finalize Mr. Lopez's employment agreement, which is now what is before the council today, in terms of finalizing the final terms of that agreement.
Are there any questions?
No question. I make a motion to approve item 7C.
I think we still need to have public comment since it's been pulled out separately.
Okay. Public hearing is not necessarily necessary, but it'd be fine to do it.
I think it's appropriate. Okay, is there anyone who wishes to address this topic? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comments. And you made a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And we have a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Solanki and seconded by Councilmember Vo to approve the agreement for employment of city manager as detailed in the agenda report. You may now select your vote on the screen. Has everyone entered their final vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And the motion passes on a vote of 4-1.
Okay, next is the item 7D. Robert?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. That item 7D relates to an extension of the existing local emergency at the golf course. For a brief summary, I'm going to defer to our acting Director of Public Works, Dario Samos.
What is that?
Hello. Thank you. Apologies for that. Thank you, Robert. Good evening, esteemed councils. Tonight, 7D item refers to the local continuance of a local emergency at the golf course. As many know, a company, Kinder Morgan, operates and maintains a gas pipeline that runs through the golf course. And in December of 2023, it presented a leak. And since then, the company has repaired it. However, in their repair, they performed extensive damage throughout the golf course, and the city sought reparations to repair the golf course and restore its functionality as a golf course. In the recent past, the city has reached an agreement with the company and has obtained a settlement in the amount of $2,353,000. And as such, the Department of Public Works has begun reparations to the golf course and should have those reparations done within the next few months. It expects at this time, barring any adverse weather, to potentially have the golf course open in the latter part of December or mid part of January, dependent upon how the reparation work continues. In order to have the expediency of these reparations occur, it is still recommended that the continuance of a local emergency continues such that the city manager can effectively perform those repairs and make those decisions as quickly as possible so that the golf course can open as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions?
I thank you. I have a comment. Thank you for that report, Dario. And I asked for this to be removed from the consent calendar because my colleagues and I and City Hall and city staff have been getting repeated questions about when Ironwood 9 is going to reopen. Why is it taking so long? What's going on? So I thought this was a great opportunity for the public to hear directly from you, Dario, as to what the status is of Ironwood 9, because a lot of residents and patrons of Ironwood 9 are wondering when is our golf course going to open back up. Thank you for updating everybody.
Mayor, I actually have a question too, and thank you for pulling this. In regards to the golf course, since we're talking about on a side note about the golf course, I know that the range is open right now, and I went there, and I've heard a few people had mentioned to me that the range balls, the machine, we're out of cards, and we've been out for a while to get more range balls. I don't know if that's been rectified. It's been 2 weeks since the last person I was going to bring it up to Sherry, but since we're discussing it, it's good to maybe let the people know if we're going to get those range cards back. I don't understand the system of the range cards. I know I went by, I'm just getting into golf as well, and I wanted to purchase, I believe it's the $100 range card, but they were completely out because that's the best deal you can get. That's a little plug there. But yeah, Sherry, can you update us on that?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Vo. We actually are revamping the value card program. We found that over the years when we increased the range ball prices, effectively the number of balls is not really jiving with the amount. So we had to go through and do a little bit of revamping. So we had to exhaust all of the cards, and then we'll be reordering additional cards, and then ensuring that the amount that's on there is correct. So it was really a staff issue for the last few years with the increase, 50 cents, even $1 for the range, just the regular range ball buckets going up, and nothing was adjusted on the value card side. So we were running into some issues.
And for a future thought moving forward, you know, I'm not going to ask for consensus now, but I know that we're one of the lower rates when it comes to range balls, golf course in general. And with that, I've noticed that there's been a lot of, well, not going to say a lot. I've had some residents have told me that sometimes it's difficult to get in there because it's really crowded now. I don't know, maybe in the future, if you're talking about adjusting prices to accommodate, to balance our budget for over there, something to think about is maybe like other cities do, is that residents get one rate and outside residents, we can charge them that extra rate. So that way, you know, we're making sure we take care of our residents first, but then also be available to have that rate and then to accommodate our budget for that golf course with those that are outside the city. And the reason why I say that is because our range course is known for having our rates really low and get a lot of balls compared to, I think, Long Beach courses and so forth. And so those residents are coming to us to take advantage of those prices too. So I think to accommodate, we should maybe look into maybe, for example, the $100 card. You know, residents can still pay $100 and get that, but maybe if you're outside residents, it'd be 120 or something, 115, just so that we can balance it out a little bit.
Years ago, council member, I want to say it was like 1999, the city council at that time gave authority to the Parks and Rec Commission to evaluate prices for range balls and course prices every other year. And we want to maintain, you know,
Perfect.
the fact that we're competitive. We don't want to outprice ourselves. But I think that value card situation is really what's kind of thrown things into a tailspin. So we did an extensive amount of research and looked at literally I think it's like 7 cents per ball, if you look at the numbers. And we're going to do a better job of ensuring that that number of balls with respect to the value cards is correct based on the price for range balls. So I think that's where the discrepancy comes in. I can, with the council's concurrence, if you want, the next time we reevaluate our range ball prices, look to see if we can maybe incorporate a resident, non-resident pricing structure. I don't know how difficult that will be. Just as you were talking, I was trying to think through my head how that would work, but we can certainly look into it.
Because we do have a separation of that for the golf course.
Yes, residents.
But range balls, we do not, right? Because it's a card.
Yeah, it's basically like a dispenser. So let me think about it. Let me just kind of work through it in my mind, and then maybe we can provide a memo, if Robert's okay with that, on a possibility for establishing a resident versus non-resident rate for range balls.
Yeah, so since you brought it up, I will ask for consensus on that.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Can I please follow up on my colleague's question? So for those of us who currently have driving range cards, are those still going to be good indefinitely, or are they going to expire at some point?
Thank you, council member. The cards don't expire. They'll still be active. We're just not, we haven't produced any more, requested any more from Kurihara, who's the company that provides the opportunity for our range ball dispense machine. So we're just trying to work through this whole thing before we order any more. But if you have an existing card out there, it's 100% valid, and you can come in and put your card in and get as many balls that you have left over there.
And if I can just add one thing to that, as long as you're looking at that part, a number of cities are charging like $35 a year to use pickleball courts. And I've heard other higher prices, but since we don't charge, we're having more people from out of the city come in and use it. the ones that we have. And, you look at the pricing compared to Don Canabi Park, there's a big difference between free and what they're charging. If council concurs, I'd like to have that looked at also, because I think, maybe we should charge, $35 a year for our residents, and maybe, or free for us, and for a non-resident to charge 35.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing I will mention, the difference between, say, the courts over at Don Canabi and the courts over at Liberty they are enclosed and gate controlled, so the access is controlled. We have no way of controlling the access on the outdoor courts at Liberty. They do reside under the Edison easement, and we have probably zero chance of having a fence or anything installed under that easement. They're just not granting those types of license agreements anymore. So that really is the difference, is the fact that those courts are open to the public any time of the day or night. We're only open from 10 to 8 during the week and 10 to 6 on the weekends. So for the most part, people can be out there playing, for free anytime they like. I will share that the courts are completely wide open between the hours of about 12 and 5 every single day. The impact is most seen in the morning. A lot of our players are seniors, and so they aren't going to work, or they're retired. So they come out very early in the morning and they play till about noon, and then there's no one out there until about 5:30. So I'm not sure how we would do the fee structure, but we can look into that if you like.
Yeah, I was going to actually bring up the same issues at the pickleball courts. Unless you want to build something to secure it, it'll be hard to regulate the membership.
I just have the, commission look at it. And if we just have concurrence, have them look at, see if there's something that they can figure out.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have no items under
We
item
have to
A.
approve the item 90 though.
And did you want to open the public comments on this, like you did the last one?
I guess I wanted to move on quicker. Okay, we'll open for public comments. Is there any public comments? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and close public comments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Do we have our vote?
A motion was made by Councilmember Vo and seconded by Councilmember Yokoyama to make the findings set forth in sections 1 through 8 of resolution number 2023-05 and incorporate by reference those findings as they relate to the continued existence of a local emergency, and direct staff to provide a report to the City Council regarding the local emergency at least once every 60 days pursuant to Section 8630C of the California Government Code until the City Council terminates the local emergency. And at this time, you may enter your vote on the screen. Do we have all the council final vote? Thank you. And the motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as I said earlier, we have no items under item 8 for public hearings. Under 9, new and old business, we have a review and consideration of, this is for 9A, to receive and file an evaluation of current street conditions and the Cerritos Pavement Management Program. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This first new and old business, item 9A, follows up on consensus direction from the City Council earlier this year, and it relates to our ongoing pavement management program. We'll be providing an update also regarding ongoing street improvement projects. This presentation will be given by Mr. Simoes, and following that, he and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Once again, good evening, esteemed mayor and council members. Tonight, I'm pleased to present before you the consideration of an update for the citywide pavement management program. I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for the remainder of the presentation. In May 2022, I presented an overview of the city's pavement management system. During that review, I indicated that the citywide inspections at regular intervals is needed to ensure proper analysis of the pavement as it deteriorates. The City of Cerritos owns and maintains about 41 million square feet of asphalt pavement, which is about the same as 525 football fields of area. The arterial network makes up about 1/3 of the total, and the residential is about 2/3. In light of the sheer volume of pavement that requires maintenance, the city has been investing in regular inspections since 1992. At approximately 5-year intervals since then, Public Works has received and analyzed the inspection data. Since that time, the city has employed the services of Infrastructure Management Systems, or IMS, to perform these inspections. Most recently, in February this year, the city re-engaged IMS to perform this comprehensive investigative service. Tonight's presentation is an overview of this inspection. Residents may have noticed this van driving throughout the city in recent months. It is the pavement inspection vehicle that has provided the latest inspection data for the program. It contains many optical tools that measure the quality of pavement, from simple cracks to detailed photographs of the pavement for verification later on. As one can see from these photos, it's a highly sophisticated piece of equipment that is used nationwide and calibrated prior to each use in each city that IMS contracts with. The technology contained within the vehicle allows the operators and technicians to analyze almost immediately the pavement rating to determine if a second inspection is needed to confirm findings. Once inspections are completed, and in order to compare one street to another, a system must be set in place that gives an overall grade or rating to each street. That ensures that all roads can be categorized and maintenance strategies can be adopted. The industry standard common method of rating is called a Pavement Condition Index, or PCI. It is a grade from 0 to 100, where essentially is brand new or drives like new, and 0 represents a total failure. As mentioned before, maintaining streets at different stages in its useful life can translate to different costs. Therefore, it is common to categorize streets by overall conditions, such as very poor or very good. To eliminate subjectivity, the table here demonstrates the rating of any given street by condition category. Cerritos has taken a very similar rating to that of Los Angeles County. It's important to note that the only noticeable difference between the two jurisdictions is with the good and fair categories. This is because there is typically no difference in how one would repair a good or a fair street. This table shows the most current inspection data for all city streets. Most of the city streets are currently in the very good condition. However, it should be noted that the area of the streets also contribute toward the city's overall PCI rating of 76.01. This is to say that a large area of the city is in the good condition. Also important to state is that the previous year's PCI rating was calculated to be 72.05. The significant increase from the past year is due to the city's commitment to improve and maintain the city's pavement within the good category. This map shows the current condition of the arterial street network. Blue is used for very good, green is used for good, yellow for fair, orange for poor, and red is used to show very poor streets. The same colors are used for condition categories for consistency, and from the map, one can deduce that most of the arterial streets are green, yellow, and orange, which is indicative of a system that is within the fair category. This map of Cerritos demonstrates the current state of the PCI rating by condition category of all residential streets. While this scale perhaps doesn't allow a view of each road in detail, overall the city presents itself largely blue in color, which is indicative of the very good condition it currently is in. This fiscal year, the Department of Public Works is currently planning to rehabilitate the areas on the map shown on the screen with a reddish color. The areas represent 4 different neighborhoods and approximately 1.5 miles of arterial streets. This is a significant increase as compared to the previous years, and once again shows the city's commitment to maintain a high level of quality to city streets. While the most recent inspections were performed prior to the improvements shown on the screen, I'd like to demonstrate some of the hard work that has been recently completed and also in the process of completion. The photos above show the recently resurfaced Dumont Avenue. It is a half-mile long collector street that connects several businesses and the Valley Christian School to Artesia Boulevard and 183rd Street. The street was previously in a poor condition category and now is classified as very good. The photos here show the recently resurfaced Gridley Road. The project also entailed a half-mile long street that connects many businesses between South Street and 183rd Street. This street was previously in a very poor condition category and now is classified as very good. It's important to note that a significant portion of this section of Gridley Road is within the city of Artesia. The department worked in conjunction with Artesia to ensure that the project was funded by and benefited both cities. The photos above show the recently resurfaced 183rd Street from Shoemaker Avenue to Carmenita Road. The street was previously in a low, fair to poor condition category and now is classified in very good. Recently, the residential neighborhood bounded by 195th Street, Bloomfield Avenue, Norwalk Avenue, and Viarna Street were also resurfaced. This neighborhood, as with others in the recent past, have received not only pavement rehabilitation, but significant concrete repairs and tree replanting. These projects are just some examples of the work that staff is currently performing. As mentioned prior, the city's commitment to maintain the city street network within a good category allows the staff the opportunity to bring forth these projects and provide the high level of quality that its residents, businesses, and patrons have come to know the city for. At this time, staff is recommending that the council take the following actions: review and discuss the findings of the Pavement Management Program update and receive and file this report. Thank you very much for your time. I'd be very happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
I have a question, Mayor.
Thank you.
Dario, thank you. With the slide that you presented for the future 2023-24 anticipated street projects, is that taking into account all the allocated money that the council has approved for street repair, or are we going to still have money left over? And if we do, is it, well, first I'll answer that question. Does that include all the allocated monies that the council has approved for street repair?
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. Yes, that does take into account an estimated dollar amount that the department uses based upon previous bids. And so we have scheduled that amount of work based upon the allocation that is in the currently approved budget.
Okay, and that approved budget of this coming year, is that enough to maintain moving forward? Like, I think the council's direction at the last budget hearing was to maintain a very good to very good status. And so do we need for future budgeting to understand that to move from the red to the blue, what will it take? And how long will it take? Shorter time frames better, of course, than long term, but just something that I'm just curious if this is something we need to address at the next budget hearing.
Yes, I understand the question. The current allocation within the existing budget is sufficient to maintain the city within good to a very good condition. And if that funding continues within the next years to come, it's expected that anywhere between 7 to 8 years, all the city streets will be in a good to very good condition from the arterials and residentials. Okay. Over time, streets do deteriorate, as mentioned in some of my previous presentations. And so if and when the dollar amounts would need to be reduced or increased, dependent upon market rates and bids that the department receives on our projects. If the funding seems to be more than sufficient, too much, or too little, I can present a new presentation at that time and present that information to council at that time.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. And the reason I'm asking is because even though it shows that very poor is only 6.07%, that's 100% if that resident is dealing with that every single day of their drive. So my hopes is that we don't have any very poor or poor, and the lowest rating that we should even consider would be fair, but work from there all the way up to good to very good. And I think that's kind of the direction the council gave a while ago too. So it's nice to see those numbers. The very poor and poor is getting smaller. So I appreciate staff for all that hard work. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Dario, I was asking the question earlier today, and I was told that to get rid of all the red on this map, it's going to take up to 12 years.
I don't think so, Mayor.
Okay.
I think it would take significantly less time than that.
Okay, I don't want to really argue about it, but whether it's 8 years or 12, I'm just thinking about a resident, if they have to, as Chung pointed out, drive on that street every single day. I understand the cost savings, how we use our money more efficiently by taking a neighborhood at a time. But for us to tell them it's going to take all these years before they see it, and it's going to get worse during those years. I would rather, and I suspect the council's in the same place, is I'd rather address all the very poor as quick as we can. And that quick means, like, if we can get it done during the next budget year or the next two, I'd rather do that than sit and tell the people they're going to have to wait. I mean, we have to maintain, the industrial area. There's a lot that we have to do, because the longer we let this go, the worse it's going to get economically for us, and to be able to attract and retain businesses, let alone maintain property values for the homeowners. So, to me, to go ahead and as you point out, we took a neighborhood and raised it from a moderate level to a good level, doesn't really address the heartache that people have, the red, that dark red for the very poor, or for those that live in the orange area. And for us to tell them that there's a good chance it's going to be 8 or more years before they see an improvement. I know the property taxes we collect never cover the cost to operate any part of the city, but we still, I think, have responsibility to go ahead and take care of the worst parts first. And that's I don't know where the council is on that, but I would love to see us sit down during the next budget, address this from the standpoint of moving the whole city up from the poor and very poor category up, and then tackle the next group. And I guess I should ask council if they concur
I agree
that
with
we
that.
should look at that during the budget process.
Yes.
Yeah, that's for the next budget process.
Okay, so I've heard from there's 4 of us at least. Are there any other questions or comments? We'll go ahead and open to the public for comments. Is there anyone that wishes to address the council on this item?
Well, that is the topic near to my heart, because I believe in the last 8 years since I've been talking over here, it's been always about the streets. Yeah, they have done, one of the pictures was our street. I cannot jubilate about the whole process, but it's getting done. But I'd be very curious to see, where does Bloomfield stand on this thing? Because our street ends up on Bloomfield, and that street is in atrocious condition. I remember here 4 years ago when I was after Kana to get that street tarred as far as the cracks. And it finally got done after a lot of complaining and a lot of meetings, but that street needs to be redone. I mean, it's like a checkerboard with all the hot tarring and cracks and what have you, but that street is in sad condition, and there's a lot of traffic on that street. I mean, we can, Valencia is the extension of Sequoia that feeds into Bloomfield. There's times that you cannot even get out, turn right, forget about turning left. So we don't even go through that. We go through 195 on the other end. But Bloomfield is in dire need. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Look to council for direction.
Receive and file, please.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Chung Po and seconded by DeRish to go ahead and receive and file. May we have a vote, please?
You may now enter your votes on the screen. Has all the council entered your final vote?
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Next item is 9B. That is a review and consideration of renaming Cerritos Park East. Robert, may we have a report, please?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This next new and old business, item 9B, follows up on consensus direction given at the last city council meeting. The details of the presentation will be given by Ms. Titus, and following that, she and our city attorney and I and Mr. Gallucci will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. As mentioned, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, at the most recent City Council meeting, the council directed that staff return a report for consideration to rename Cerritos Park East, also known as CPE, in honor of retiring City Manager Art Gallucci, who is retiring after serving the city and its residents since the early 1970s. The council also requested that consideration be given to waive the approved administrative policy for the naming and renaming of city facilities. That policy states in part that the naming and renaming of a city facility for an individual who has made meritorious and outstanding contributions to the city and or the Cerritos community at large. Further, to ensure a measure of credibility and merit, when honoring an individual, only names of deceased persons shall be considered after a one-year period. As we can all see, Mr. Gallucci is very much alive and well, so the one-time waiver relates to the one-year posthumous honor. There are only two instances whereby park facilities were renamed. The most recent renaming occurred after the passing of former Cerritos Mayor and City Council member Jim Edwards. The other was in 2000 when Carmenita Park was renamed to Joe A. Gonzalez Park, also former mayor of Cerritos and member of the California State Assembly, who made great contributions to this community. In addition to the renaming, there are costs associated with that renaming and rebranding. As outlined in the staff report, the monument signs, dedication plaques, landscape improvements, followed by official dedication ceremony, all contribute to the renaming and rebranding. Staff estimates the cost will total approximately $60,000. This cost was not included in the current budget, therefore a budget amendment and appropriation of $60,000 will be required should the council choose to move forward with this project. It is therefore recommended that the City Council, 1, review and discuss the information provided in the staff report, consider a waiver to number 2, to the City of Cerritos naming and renaming of city facilities policy. Number 3, rename Cerritos Park East, CPE, to Arthur Gallucci Park. And number 4, authorize a budget amendment and appropriate $60,000 to cover all associated project costs to rename CPE to Arthur Gallucci Park and direct staff accordingly. That concludes my presentation. Mr. Gallucci himself, Mr. Lopez, and I would be happy to answer any questions the council may have. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor. This is Bill Erkey via teleconference coming from the airways. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. If I may, Mayor, just to follow up on one of the items that the Superintendent Sherry Titus was mentioning, I did want to clarify it was in the report, and Ms. Titus and I did discuss this, and I thought that it would be beneficial for the rest of the council. to know that the waiving of this requirement would be for just this instance, and that the current policy and procedural manual does not address waivers, but it does address adding and amending policies. And because waivers themselves are just a typical action that can be brought by the council by consensus like any other action, and then when it's on an agenda, it requires just a simple majority vote, that would be the instance for this item because it would be a one-time waiver. However, the policy and procedural manual does specify a pretty elaborate procedure that would be followed if a new or additional policy or amendment to an existing policy would be the choice of the council in the future. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because as I mentioned, we had discussed this among staff, and if there were to be an actual policy change that would go through the amendment process, that would actually have to come back as a separate agenda item after going through that process. I just wanted to let the council know that we did have that discussion to make it clear, and also to reaffirm and make it clear what the waiver addresses would just be this one-time item. It would not be a policy change. Thank you. That's all I have for right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Turkey. Are there any questions?
Yes, oh, go ahead.
Just real quick. Yes, thank you, Frank. To clarify then, Bill, then to waive the policy would require a simple majority, which just means 3 votes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Frank, Bill. So I was listening.
Hi, Councilman.
Hello, sir. So I was listening to your explanation of the analysis that you had regarding instead of changing the policy, just doing a one-time waiver. And you explained that a one-time waiver would require a majority vote. So that just makes me think, what's the use of having a policy? Because if this policy can be waived by a majority vote, where does it stop? I mean, can any policy, any similar policy, or can any policy of the city of Cerritos be waived by a majority vote? I don't understand why we have a policy if it doesn't have to be followed, as long as a majority of the council doesn't want to follow the policy or a policy. So what written municipal policies of the city of Cerritos are enforceable and cannot be overridden by a majority vote, and what city of Cerritos municipal policies can be overridden or waived just by a simple majority vote? I don't understand why we have a policy then, or why we have this policy, why we have any policies. If a majority vote can override and waive a policy, what's the use of having a policy? Can you address that, please?
Sure, happy to, Councilman Yokoyama, and it's a very good question. It is, I suppose, a good place to start to remember that all of the policies and procedures that are in the rather extensive manual, as well as other ones that the city has, are fully within the discretion of the council to adopt in the first place or to repeal. When policies are adopted, they generally are intended to be administrative guidance. They are intended to be the guidance that staff will follow without having to go to council when a particular circumstance comes up, because the policies address those type of circumstances that then need to be acted upon by staff. So there would not be a need to go to council. So they generally are intended to be guidance for staff and typically would not come before council. As is here, when a policy is in place and there is a desire to waive it in a particular instance, then it would need to come to council because the staff would not be following what the policy would ordinarily require staff to do. So with the purpose of the policies to be really administrative, they usually work and have a value in that regard because most decisions that staff would need to make would just follow what the policies say to do. Now, with that explanation and to address the concern you have about if policies are starting to be waived by the council such that the policies no longer have the administrative certainty that the council wanted or that the staff is following, there is, of course, the ability to, I know this sounds a little ironic in some respects, but to add a policy dealing with when certain policies could be waived. There is no such policy in the manual right now, but that is something that could be addressed as through the procedure that we have in the manual and could be discussed by council on how something like that may be addressed to then be included as one of the many policies that not only staff would have to follow, but also the council would follow.
Thank you, Bill. And we're also, by having this agenda item before the city council today, we're also implicitly waiving the requirement under the city, under the naming and renaming of city facilities policy. We're implicitly waiving the requirement that this goes through the responsible commission first. Because under section F and G, it's supposed to be it specifies it's supposed to be first heard by the responsible commission by way of a duly noticed public hearing, and then whatever their recommendation is, that recommendation is then submitted to the city council for final consideration. So we have also waived that requirement, isn't that correct?
Well, it's part of the recommended action based on consensus. But yes, you are correct. It would be a one-time waiver of the policy.
Yeah, the 1 year requirement after the death of the individual being considered, and we're also waiving the requirement that it goes through the responsible commission first for consideration at a duly noticed hearing, and then their recommendation is submitted to the city council. Correct, Bill?
Correct.
Excuse me if I may,
Thank you.
just really quickly. I was around when this policy was drafted, and I think that particular section of the policy really dealt with garden variety residents, clubs, organizations bringing forth names. Certainly the city council, your residents as well. But I would not suspect that it would need to go back to a commission if you were the ones initiating that request. So again, there was a lot of discussion when this policy was instituted, and that was to allow the public, the community, to bring forth names, and then it would go through that channel of going to a commission, depending upon what the facility was, and then ultimately coming to the council. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thank you for elaborating on that, Sherry. However, that discussion didn't make it in writing into the final approved version of the policy, correct?
The discussion, no. Again, you're the council, so you can, I think that's where the direction had come from. So it didn't start like it normally would with just a resident or a club or organization, bringing forth a name. It started at your level, so I think that's why it maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong, but that's why we kind of skipped that step.
Are there any other questions, comments? Chung?
Thank you, Mayor. So to kind of address some of the things that were brought up by my colleague, ultimately, you know, our role as council, as I understand, is we are the policy-making body for the city. We don't direct staff to do certain tasks. We only can direct the city manager. But ultimately, the city council is the policy-making body for the city. And ultimately, this is a policy. And I understand, I wasn't physically present at the last council meeting. And I probably would have had further discussion, but my concern about this is that, you know, we do have a policy in place though. Bill has mentioned that there is a process that we as council have implemented to add, amend, or move forward with a policy or a new policy. And there's a reason why we have policies, so we can follow it. I am conflicted in a sense, but at the same time, this doesn't take anything away from the fact that we had or have a great city manager who's done a great job. I think the decision to bring this forward was one to also recognize the accomplishment of the city manager, the great work and where we're at today as a city, thanks to our city manager, Art Galucci. I do like the term Art Galucci Park, and we can always call it AGP, you know, instead of Art Galucci Park. That's too long to say. But I also believe that there's a process that we have to go with. I'm concerned that when we make policy up and we create a policy for our staff to follow, and then suddenly the legislative body, the policy-making body, decides that we're just going to go ahead and just waive it. Not to say that we can't do that, because we ultimately can. Not to say that we shouldn't, you know, every single time, because there's going to be instances where we should. But for me, I look at the policy and rules in general to find out what's right and what's wrong, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And I try and take the name out of it. And in this case, you know, Art has done a great job. It's probably uncomfortable for him to sit there while he's listening to all of us, but just know that all of us, I know our council and residents appreciate everything you've done. My concern is the fact that we have a policy and we're kind of bypassing what we as council have already directed that our employees follow. And what's to say in the future, you know, if some other policy comes up and we need to change that because it benefits a certain person. So I'm conflicted because I think, Art, you're amazing. But I know for a fact, Art's sitting there right now, he probably doesn't want us to violate policy either for his sake. And so I'm just going to say that now. When the time comes, I think that there's a process that is in place already. We should follow that process, like Bill said, and that process, that if we're going to amend or we're going to change a policy or add something to it, that it should go through that policy procedure and bring back to us as a council to vote on it as a complete legislative body. So when the time comes, I will make that motion for us to relook at this policy and bring it to the Policy and Procedure Committee, and that will include staff and council, and then, you know, we can discuss moving forward with that. But that would be my motion when that time is appropriate. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. No other comments, questions at this point? Yeah, that'd probably be the appropriate time. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and open to the public for comments. I only have Celia Spitzer listed.
Hi. I'm doing this without anything written down, which is very unusual for me, but a lot of it comes from the heart. However you go about doing this, if you feel you have to revisit the policy and amend the policy, do it fast. Do it so Art can enjoy something being named for him. when we heard that Art was retiring, and even more recently, now that, Robert was chosen and all of that. And I remember saying to my husband, I sure hope they name something in the city in Art's honor. Honor, not memory. The ABC School District has named many things over the years, and they don't have the requirement of somebody being dead. So I think that requirement is pretty sad. I've known Art probably since sometime in 1972 when he was a real newbie in the city of Cerritos. And it goes back to probably around the dedication of, at that time, City Park East. It really had no name at all. And it was actually dedicated in 1972, not 1973. And I know this for a fact because I think Art was the person we went to. I'm not sure. I'm one of 5 women moms who founded the Cerritos Tot Lot program. And that program began in September of 1972. I have pictures, so I know, because my daughter was in it, and there were about 35 or so children in it. And not only, we went because we modeled it on the City of Lakewood's Tot Lot program. And then we, at first, we'd have our supplies, and whoever the mother of the day was, you'd have it, and you'd transfer it then from your trunk to the next person's trunk of their car, because we had no place to store things. So somewhere in that 72, 73 year, Art was the person for us to go to. And we said, we really need some sort of storage facility. Would the city buy one for us? 'Cause we had no money. And we paid very little, and it was all parent-run. It was not city-sponsored or anything, but we used CPE. And so Art was able to obtain a really nice storage shed facility that we could lock up and keep our things there. Ultimately, I think it was after I was no longer involved, they had a second one. And the following year, because the program had grown so much and we really wanted to have a building to be able to have a real preschool program for the 4-year-olds, because it was 2, 3, and 4-year-olds. And to have that, we then started a second location over at Westgate Park. And so I have some, really fun pictures. And by the end of 73, I counted, we was looking at something like 65 or 70 children in it, and one of the people in that picture is former council member Polito, because he and my daughter are the same age. So like I said, when I heard about Art's retirement, and I said to my husband, I hope they name something for him, and then just the other day before I actually read the agenda report, I said to Howard, to my husband, I said, the best thing to be named is Cerritos Park, to be renamed is Cerritos Park East, because that was Art's baby. And, it just grew and grew and grew. So then when I saw that, I thought somebody, mind reading or something. So whether you have to go and revisit the policy and modify the policy, that's an administrative kind of thing. Do it if you have to do it. I would prefer you would make a decision to actually rename the park. We could call it Art Park, by the way, although it's not going to be about art, but as you were trying to do something shorter. So this is great, having this here. We really can look with the time. By the way, Property Preservation has already had 2 meetings where we've used this whole system, so we're way ahead of you. He's smiling over there, and it's worked really well. So I highly request that you rename CPE in honor of Art, and I would request that you do that tonight. If not, bring it back as fast as you can to do it if you want to go through these other processes. And I don't see any need for it to go, I assume, to Parks and Recreation Commission, since, as it was pointed out, you are the ones that started or made the request for this.
Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Jennifer Chang.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Chang. I want to thank Art for doing a great job. Cerritos is a great place to live. And I do believe there's many ways to honor him. But by waiving a policy that's set forth by the city, I don't think that's, necessary. The policy is set in place for a reason. We don't make one-time waiving to the policy. If we waive this time, how many times do you want to waive other policies? I mean, waiving policy is necessary, but under extraordinary circumstances. I don't believe this is one of them. There are many ways to honor him, right? And this is not one of them. And special doesn't cost the city $60,000. I mean, our roads still need to be fixed. There's still many reds on the map, right? And the streets on where I live needs to be repaved. So, as the city residents, I don't agree with this renaming of the park. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Malik Manda.
I introduce my name, Malik Manda.
Malik, I'm sorry, thank you.
No worries. I've been a resident of Cerritos more than 15 years. And I feel proud to tell I'm a resident of city of Cerritos because you guys keep Cerritos city so well. And any place I go, when I say I'm Cerritos, they only have appreciation. So our reputation is very good. And you work hard to maintain the reputation, which is really great. Thank you. And part of that probably, the retiring city manager probably would have done a great job. Actually, not probably, he has done a great job. There is no doubt about it. So one thing that I want to tell is, whenever you are changing the names, this is involved with residents. We are the ones we are going to call it, right? We are so used to calling CPE, and you want to call it something else. So you city council members, we elected you, and you need to understand us, we need to understand you. That's right. So residents are, whenever you want to change name, residents should be involved, whether they like it or not. So, because we are so used to calling a name, and also on top of it, you don't know whether you know or not. There is a WhatsApp groups, people are talking, Cerritos Council is spending $60,000 to change the name. And what is good for it? Who is going to benefit for it? If you want to honor somebody, yes, honor, put some, but not spending $60,000. So I was only reading these WhatsApp comments among the city residents. $60,000 city council is spending on this changing the name, which has no use, and we are not willing to call the CPE or something else. We are so used to it. So that is one, and then on top of it, now you have to, I just came to know that you have to make a exception to the rule to do that. Why are you have to be in a hurry to do that? I mean, I request city council members to, I know you have a discretion power, you can change anything, but as a resident, this is our intention, that you don't change anything, don't deviate, just go through the rules and then follow the rules. Why do you have to change? Then if you change one thing, then you will have to change another thing, and there is no end to it. So please, I request city council members, use your discretion power. We don't want you to spend under $60,000 public fund on changing the name. And if you want to honor them, honor the great city manager in a different way. But we want to honor him too, because we definitely are very thankful to his services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My speaker list hasn't updated. And Sam, you were just there, so why don't you come on up?
Good evening, Mayor, Council members, Art Galochi. It seems like whatever you do today and if you choose to rename a property, there is enough anti-Galucci feelings in our Cerritos that in an election or two, they are going to rename it again. It feels like this is a political payback to look good. Mr. Galucci has done an amazing job. We honor him. But it should not be hijacked by few corrupt individuals who we believe want to show their gratitude by honoring someone, by waiving our rights, our policies. We have done that before. We know we have a mayor who is sitting here who is not even elected. Believe me, I wish I had more energy to do whatever it takes to remind all that honor means honor. It's not showing someone gratitude after you stab them in the back, after you tell your base, your voter base, that you want to get rid of them, after you tell them you disagree, you want to honor them? Like this? It's a shame. Honoring art should be genuine effort, not a political showdown. Since 1971, he has been here. Since 1991, he has done a tremendous job. He knows that this city is where it is because of contribution from different council members, different residents. And when I stand here in front of you, it is not to dishonor art, but it is to stop few council members to dishonor Cerritos. It is a great city. But when policy-making body we know has sold out to few donors and then show honor in this manner without even considering what residents have to say, points that that's not respect and that is not doing right. Honor someone, respect them, but don't make it about a political show for your base on one side. There is no conflict. It feels like art is being used as a pawn. It's not honor to stand here and remind everyone that we can manipulate our policies as we like because we have the power. But is it necessary? Don't you think there'll be council after you who would have appreciated art? How arrogant is this council to think they are the only ones who can think of our future? You know, we have a young manager who is coming here. I don't want him ever to feel how art may be feeling now. I want him to stay long, but I don't want him to be loyal to any one of you. Because in the end, he should know that many of you will talk behind his back and then want to name something for him. You want to create a legacy? Show up as a leader. Show up as respecting, honoring what Cerritos is. We have a charter. We have policies. You guys have rampaged through it. To do what? To honor someone? Without even considering what residents want. I'm glad there is a WhatsApp group, and I'm not part of it. Can you imagine? And it's not about $60,000. You want to honor art? Bring this back? Get residents involved? Get your names off it. Wait few years. Believe me, we love art. We will honor him. Thank you.
There's still no updated list. Case, I think you're the other one.
I only can base it on the fact what I read on Facebook. Believe you me, if any of you check Facebook, yeah, you have some people who support that whole idea of renaming Cerritos Park East, but there's plenty of people that do not agree with that whole idea. What they're saying is, he's there, he did a job, he got paid for the job. So now if you want to honor him in another way. Give him a plaque, like I got a plaque when I retired after 48 years. But don't go this route. This route is, as my previous speaker said, it's not the right route. First of all, I think it's a waste of money to do something like that. I wish you'd fix Bloomfield up with that money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And can you state your name for the record?
Hi, my name is Michelle Wolf. I would like to thank you, Art, for your many years of service. We appreciate you. But I do want to address the fact that, it is important to get the electorate involved because we are over you. You are our employees. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention that this is not a democracy. A democracy is two wolves and a sheep deciding what is for dinner. This is a republic. And so we have to, keep up with our constitutional service. So thank you. Thank you, Art, for your service.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the council at this time? Seeing none, we'll close public comments. Look to council for an action.
I have comments.
Certainly.
All right. I agree that Art Gallucci should be recognized for his tremendous contributions to the city of Cerritos. His remarkable tenure should not go unnoticed. However, changes to policy, changes to the charter, waiving of policy should only be made if there is an emergent issue that will directly impact the safety and welfare of our residents. Other than that, we, the council, should be following our policies and our charter. And in this particular request to waive policy to rename Cerritos Park East will require a budget amendment of $60,000. That to me is not an emergency. In fact, it was stated at our last budget session that budget amendments are not best practice. Changes in our policy and charter only take 3 votes. That is 3 votes from the 5 of us sitting up here on the dais. That is 3 votes out of 50,000 residents. That's exactly what happened with our election change cycle. 3 people out of 50,000 people decided to change the charter and move the elections. There was no community input. There was no ad hoc committee. At this time, I do not support the waiving of a city policy to rename CPE. If it is the will of this council to do so, I ask that they perhaps have a cooling down period, wait a year, do their due diligence by soliciting public input and having it go through the responsible commission. There are also many other ways to honor Mr. Gallucci other than changing the name of Cerritos Park East. I've read over 160 comments on social media. One site alone had 135 comments. All but 1 or 2 people opposed the renaming of CPE. We also have residents that submitted written comments. We can't ignore the voices of our residents that have expressed opposition to renaming the park. Some had great suggestions, and we really need to take those into account. These parks don't belong to us. They belong to the residents. They need to have a seat at the table when we rename it, if we rename it. This policy waiver will set a dangerous precedence. All it takes is for a new majority on this council to to be voted in at the next election, and that new majority will also start making changes to our policy without community input. And the cycle will keep going over and over. Because why? Because it's been done before. The question we should all be asking ourselves up here, since we serve 50,000 residents, how is the waiving of a policy to rename a park, including a budget amendment, going to address the needs of the community, such as overgrown trees and safe sidewalks? That's what we should really be asking ourselves. Thank you.
Bill, can I ask a question? Bill, are we changing a charter policy?
No, not with this. There's no charter provision that would be at issue with this item.
Thank you.
Other comments? Frank?
Yes, please. Yeah, I just want to reminisce about Cerritos Park East because I do feel strongly about Cerritos Park East. I have a lot of I've had a lot of great memories and great times there. When my parents, Tom and Chit Yokoyama, moved my family here to Cerritos in 1976, and I grew up in Granada Park. That was the nice park, the nice city park that was closest to my house. And I just recall riding my bike there or walking there with my friends and going to CPE, going to Cerritos Park East. And, I remember going to Cerritos Park East with my parents and my sisters for 4th of July. You residents out there know what I'm talking about. It wasn't Let Freedom Ring at the Civic Center. For many years, for years and years, it was the 4th of July at Cerritos Park East. And it was packed, and there was no parking. And everybody was having a great time. And that's what Cerritos Park East was in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And I remember going there in grade school, and even when I would come home from college and play basketball on the basketball courts there. Good times. And now, raising my family here, I have those same memories playing basketball on the basketball courts with my own daughter and my own son at Cerritos Park East at CPE. And I remember organizing softball games on the open baseball fields with family and friends, and we would have annual 4th of July softball games on the fields, and my families and friends would come together and visit me and my city of Cerritos. And that's a way that my family and friends got to know Cerritos, is by visiting to play softball together at Cerritos Park East. So I can understand and empathize with the residents who feel so strongly about Cerritos Park East and it being called Cerritos Park East and it being called CPE, because I've been a fan of Cerritos Park East since 1976, and I'll always think of it fondly because of everything it gave me and my parents and my sisters, and now my family and my sisters' families, and all my nieces and nephews and my kids. And, even to this day, now my young nieces and nephews are going there for community programs. So I just, in hearing this discussion, and for some, today we're talking about Cerritos Park East, And residents have been talking about it either in the comments submitted to City Hall, to the city clerk because of this agenda item, or the discussion on social media, which has been brought to my attention. You know, residents want to make sure that I know what's going on social media. I just wanted to let everybody know, as someone who grew up in Cerritos since 1976, I get it, why that we have such an emotional bond, individually and with our family and with our friends growing up here in Cerritos and our school friends, why we have such a strong feeling, a protective feeling about Cerritos Park East, about CPE, because hometown means something. The great city of Cerritos means something. Cerritos Park East means something. CPE means something. And it's valuable to us. It's valuable to our families, our memory of Cerritos, what Cerritos has done for all of us for all these decades. It is a strong symbol of Cerritos. It's one of the best parks, if not the best park in the city. And thank you for letting me reminisce with all of you and share with you what Cerritos Park East has done for me in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Mayor, I have some comments. First off, I have a question. Cerritos Park East, that would imply there's a west or north or south. Where did Cerritos Park East come from? I understand it's on the east side of the city. Did anything come out, maybe call it Cerritos Park? Because where does CPE originate from, just for those who don't know?
Thank you for the question, Councilman. It's an interesting one. It goes back a long, long ways. What was going on at the time, this was 1971, 72, 73, the city was building parks all over the city. It wasn't just one going up, there was a multitude of parks. And City Park East came in pieces. It wasn't the 33 acres that you see there now at one time. There were pieces put together to create that over time. Residents came to deal with the facility and asked for different kind of things. Racquetball courts were put in. Nobody had heard of them at that time. But the council got it, the interest from the neighbors, and they put it in. We always had the interest of the community at heart. Where did the name come from? The name came from a bunch of people in a room designing these parks, these multiple parks. What are you going to name this one? Heritage? Okay, that's fine. Put down. I mean, these are architects just literally writing stuff down. But the thing we learned was, once you write something down, it tends to stay. And that's what happened. They just put those initials down, and we had heritage, liberty. We were going for the constitutional theme, and never got there with CPE, because once they hung that on the design, that's what it became.
Thank you, Art, for that. Like I've said earlier, you know, I'm not okay with waiving policy or changing policy just at the will, but we have a policy in place. There's a procedure that needs to be taken care of before we decide on this. Art Gallucci, you know, I'm not denying the fact that he has served this city well, and to a point where I feel strongly that he should have something named as well. But even having said that, for those who do know me, I try to follow the rules. And the rule is that we have a policy in place, and there's a process to change it. Yes, can we do it here right now? Yes, we can. But then I think that sends the wrong message out there to our staff, our employees, and the residents. Not to say that Art won't have his day, but I think if we're going to do it, I'd like to do it right versus something that may be questionable. And so with that, I would actually like to make a motion to bring this policy back to the Policy and Procedure Committee and have discussion in regards to how, if there is any discussion, to change it in order to name something for an individual that is still, I hate to say this because you're sitting right there, Art, but an individual that is still alive today. One of the reasons why I think, and you know, Sherry and then Bruce, you were there when the policy was made, right? I know we just last year we kind of just sealed it on paper, but one of the things I was told that the reason why we wait until the person is deceased is really to check council, to make sure the council does not order a park to be named after themselves while they're up here on the dais. And that's something that is, you know, is something that we should follow, is that, you know, sometimes, like, again, we don't know who's going to be sitting up here. And if all of a sudden you have a majority and they want to start naming parks after themselves because they're sitting up here, that policy is kind of, I think, one of the reasons why we have that. Again, if I'm mistaken, please correct me. But I think if it's not the reason, I think it's a good reason that to prevent the council from naming parks after ourselves while we're up here. And this policy was created what year, Sherry? A long time ago?
A long time, yeah.
So
it was after Carmenita Park was renamed, that kind of sparked the conversation. So I would say 2001, 2002.
Yeah, so with anything that's, you know, in regards to policies and procedures, things get updated, laws get changed, and policies as well should change to match what's mainstream today. You know, a policy that's written 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or even last year, if something changes, that's why the policy is able to be amended by council. Just for the record, I just want to say that the council does not vote to change the charter at all. The only way you can change the charter is by the vote of the people. And so this is not part of a charter issue. This is a policy. And again, I think my motion, like I stated, is to bring this policy back to the Policies and Procedures Committee to have a discussion in regards to how to deal with an individual that may still be here with us today for renaming facilities and so forth. That would be my motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Comments? I'll go ahead and
yes.
I want to address. Yeah,
Go ahead.
Frank. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I am happy with the policy, and Art, you've done everything in the moon for the city of Cerritos. But I'm happy with the policy, so I'm going to vote no for anything regarding changing the policy.
Which would come should the policy committee bring something forward. Yeah, tonight it's not going to address that.
Yeah, the motion was to
send it back to the policy committee.
Yeah, and I don't see the need to even consider changing this policy.
Okay. Well, first of all, a question. Okay, wait a second. Cindy, I've been asked by Cindy to go ahead and read into the record that there was correspondence, but if we can just do a little interlude, take care of her requirement. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Written correspondence submitted by the deadline listed on the agenda is considered public record. Prior to the meeting, the City Council received copies of the full-text unredacted written correspondence that was submitted for this item. Public requests for copies of the full-text redacted written correspondence can be made during regular business hours to the office of the City Clerk. The following individuals submitted comments in opposition to a waiver of the Cerritos naming and renaming of city facilities policy. Abhishek Jang, Jennifer Chang, Anne Margaret Castillo, Jana Rajan, Howard Remsen, Amy Tong, Dara Nye, Marty and Gail Grossman, Sherry Woods, Christine Tan, and Colleen Aldrich. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, can we repeat the motion, please?
A motion was made by Councilmember Vo and seconded by Councilmember Johnson to direct the city manager to bring a report to the Policies and Procedures Committee to review and discuss the modification of policy number 7.06, the city naming and renaming of facilities policy. Is that correct?
Okay. I want to just ask one question. Is Bill still on the phone?
Yes, I'm still here, Mayor.
Okay. You know, you said there's two potential actions that we should look at. And one of them was the, specific about the, policy and to make a change as requested here that we can just, by a simple vote of 3, to do that. Then you also mentioned that there's also the potential new language that would make it more difficult for that to happen. That would have to, go through another process. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct, and that's something that could be referred to the Policy and Procedures Committee too, as any potential policy could be.
Okay, so my question is Chung, does your motion include the second part that Bill just reiterated that make it more difficult, to do so?
Well, the motion is to have a discussion on the policy procedure in regards to this policy. So anything is possible with the discussion.
Well, I want to be very specific. From my point of view, I'd rather tie the two together, that the policy committee would look at both items.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that would
but
be.
not just those items, anything else in that policy as well.
Okay,
Yes.
no, we have other things that are being brought forward that has to come forward. That's not on the agenda here.
But yes, that would be included.
Okay, so I just asked for a friendly question.
I'm going to withdraw my second.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to withdraw my second.
Okay, I'll make a motion then to allow the discussion.
You mean you want to take a second, or you want to do a
No,
substitute?
I
motion?
said I'll be the second.
Okay.
Okay. Frank, I too look at the park from a fond memory, a little different than yours, and I recognize that. My kids were involved just as you were from 78 when we moved here. And like you've earned the mayor's award, through your coaching. I'm very close. If I was to go back, I could have a second mayor's award on it. I did a lot of coaching over at that park. The name, I think my first memory is not a fond one. I did park underneath, behind the swim center. We had the fireworks going off, and a lot of the ashes dropped on top of my car and burned, the roof of the car. And that was in 78 or 79, excuse me. But the park, I've had the good fortune of working with Art from before he was a city manager, on the planning commission. I'm well aware of the comments and let's just say comments from other cities, elected officials and others about, the reputation of our city. For most of you, what you don't know is back when I was first elected to the city council in 94, our budget was around, our reserve, was around $34 million. And you look at our budget at over 100 million. You look at our, the assets that we owned. There's no city that is in the position that we're in. State law says we can't sell that land. But, our reserves, if you include that part, is through the roof. Art has been instrumental in all these, steps. Council, I know every one of us have argued with Art over things that we want to see happen. We've had that give and take with Art. It's made us all better. I think it's made Art better. Just the redevelopment bill that I worked on for 7 years. Art didn't agree to pursue it for 2 of those 7 years. That brought us $155 million before the governor got through his legislation to kill it. And that money that we were receiving went to the county. And the first thing the county did was hired 3,200 new employees. that was money that was being used to create jobs here in our city, improve the assets, that we have. When I look at the library, one of the crown jewels of the city, the Performing Arts Center, which happened before I was on the city council. When the council initiates an item, a lot of cities have ideas. They initiate it and it doesn't happen. And the staffs in place aren't capable of putting those into place. Our city has. We have a staff that's brought things forward. Celia, you mentioned Art, his park CPE, that's one of his things he pushed on. There's other projects. The water recycling we have was his project assigned to him to implement. Everybody in our staff has a hand in those things, but we still have to have a leader that makes those things happen. People's comments about Art being well paid, Art will concur with that, but if you start looking at him compared to any city around us, Art was paid less. Art, we've argued, I've been part of the argument, he has turned down even COLAs, the cost of living increases. He just felt, he wanted to be sure that our employees were treated fairly. And I've never heard a complaint from any of our employees about Art's pay side. They know that he has foregone, these increases to pay. And I don't abide by that. He's gotten all that he should have gotten. Art has gone, I've been with Art where he's worked full days into the nights. We've been on trips, going to meetings that ended up at 10 o'clock at night. And is he paid for that? In a way, yes. But there's a lot of city managers that won't put that time in. We have one of the very few in the state of California that's done that. And when you hear the comments about our city, and everyone says what a great city we have had a long history of employees putting in a lot of extra time to get this to happen. And people don't understand that. I've had comments, based on some of the stuff I've done, that they said that we should have something, named after me. And I've heard it for Paul, Bolin and others in the past. None of us really want that, and I don't. And to me, it's a very rare situation, and we have a chance to go ahead and honor a guy in a way that is very unusual, that his family will appreciate. I feel, as Chung you did, that this is a honorable thing to do. But I do agree that if our policies are in place in a way that I've been a proponent to have all of our policies written. I've been pushing on this for years. Our protocol manual is something that our city attorney has quoted when we need to stay on track and do the right things from up here. That's something that I wrote back in 2011. And in the process, we had public meetings, we had excellent turnouts, 50 to 100 people showing up to go ahead and contribute, their comments. And with that, the council put it into place. We're in the process of updating that. We're going to have the exact same process open to the public for comments. Times have changed, people's, way they adhere to things have changed. And the part that I like is the fact that we have, I think, 5 people that say that we want to support the policies we have in place, and make it very difficult to change them without the public being involved in it. So anyway, I do support Chung's motion to send it back to that committee. Nothing's going to happen from there unless it comes back and has public comments on it. With that, can we have our vote, please?
Thank you, Mayor. It was moved by Councilmember Vo and seconded by Mayor Barrows. And just to clarify, to direct the city manager to bring a report to the Policies and Procedures Committee to review and discuss the modification of Cerritos Policy Number 7.06, the city naming and renaming of facilities policy. Is that consistent with the maker of the motion?
Correct, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask just one question? Art and Robert, when do you think this would come back to that committee?
We can call a meeting of the committee as soon as the committee members are available and bring it back to a subsequent city council meeting agenda and provide due notice in accordance with what's written in the policy currently.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I get 1 minute, 60 seconds?
Go ahead, Art.
I would like to thank everyone who come in and participated in this discussion. I never asked for this, but I accept the discussion and the nice things said on both sides. I'm just happier than heck to have had the opportunity to work in Cerritos and to work for these wonderful councils and the community. The community's been supportive. That's why all these parks got built, because the community asked for and demanded and put those parks together. So I just want to say again, I didn't ask for this, but I appreciate it very, very much that you would think of that on both sides. And I thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, for thinking of that.
And Art, and all the years I've known you, that's you. You've never asked for anything, special. And thank you.
And Art, that's the reason why you deserve something. So thank you.
Okay, Cindy?
At this time, the council may enter their votes on the screen. Has all council entered their final vote? Thank you. The motion passes on a vote of 3-2.
Thank you. Move on to item 9C. Robert?
Thank you, Mayor. This last new and old business item 9C, it comes at the request of the Cerritos Auto Dealers Association, and it's related to a potential agreement related to the existing freeway sign. This presentation will be given by Mrs. Aguila, and after that, she and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Item 9C this evening is consideration of a request by the Cerritos Auto Square Dealers Association for financial assistance from the city to facilitate an upgrade of the existing privately owned Cerritos Auto Square digital freeway sign. At this time, I'll direct your attention to the screen for a presentation. The Cerritos Auto Square digital advertising freeway sign was constructed in 1984 and is used to provide information regarding ongoing sales events at various dealerships within the Auto Square, and also to bring attention to the overall presence of the Auto Square. In addition, the city receives 10% per hour of the programming time available for the advertising and promotion of city events, programs, and facilities. Since original construction, the sign has undergone several upgrades in an effort to ensure that the display panels are in optimal advertising condition, that they maintain state-of-the-art display technology, and meet the high-quality standards of the city. The last upgrade of the sign was completed in 2013 with financial assistance at that time by the City of Cerritos. Since the last upgrade was over 10 years ago, the existing digital display panels are now approaching their end of life and are operating at less than half brightness. As a result, they can no longer effectively communicate advertising displays. Additionally, the parts required for maintaining the display panels are no longer under warranty and are difficult to procure. As a result of the deteriorating sign display conditions, the association recently solicited competitive bids to facilitate an upgrade of the existing sign, which will include an upgrade of the existing display panels to 10mm high resolution, a refurbishment of identification LED display lighting, and the refurbishment of the existing sign structure. Based on bids received by the association, the total cost to upgrade the existing sign is anticipated to be $892,181. Following receipt of bids, the association contacted the city to request financial assistance due to the long-standing relationship with the city. In an effort to facilitate the completion of the upgrades, the association is requesting a 50% financial contribution from the city, totaling $446,000 $91 to help fund the required upgrades to the digital freeway sign. In addition, the association is requesting the city's assistance in initially funding the additional 50%, totaling $446,090, with the association paying back the share of the cost by way of a 5-year loan agreement between the city and the association with 4% simple interest. As proposed, payment would be made quarterly, commencing 60 days after the contribution is provided by the city. Upon completion of the upgrades, the association will be responsible for all costs associated with the ongoing maintenance and operation of the sign, including electricity, insurance, and costs for regular repairs to the sign as necessary. In addition, the city will continue to receive 10% per hour of programming time for the promotion of city-sponsored events and programs. Lastly, I'd like to note that the association represented to the city that it had sought competitive bids for the proposed work, including a bid and proposal from the existing sign contractor, and has indicated that after it vetted proposals, the existing sign operator is the only suitable vendor capable of completing the upgrade and, in any event, had the lowest bid to complete the work. As such, pursuant to the Cerritos Municipal Code, the city's bidding requirements need not apply because the existing operator is the single or sole source able to complete the necessary upgrades to the privately owned sign, and it is in the best interest of the city due to the existing operator's experience with this sign in particular. However, the association and its contractors will be required to follow all applicable prevailing wage requirements if a contribution from the city is authorized. I do want to note that in 2013, when the city previously provided financial assistance, the terms were memorialized in an agreement with the association and were largely the same to the contemplated terms before you this evening. While the city's initial financial contribution for upgrading the sign would be $890,000, approximately $890,000, the net fiscal impact to the city would be approximately $428,000 of general fund monies after the loan is paid back with accrued interest. This net financial contribution would, however, be offset by the economic benefits to the city as a result of sales at the Auto Square, which are largely attributed to the advertising and the marketing from this digital sign. As you are aware, the Cerritos Auto Square is the largest and most profitable retail sector in the city. The Auto Square generates approximately $1.5 billion in annual sales, with vehicle sales averages at about 60,000 vehicles each year. Of the city's top 25 sales tax revenue generating businesses, 14 are dealerships within the Auto Square. As a result, the city receives approximately $14.8 million each year in sales tax revenue from the Auto Square. This is then reinvested back into the community through the provision of core city services. In addition, I'd like to add that over the past 10 years, a total of 22 development projects have been entitled or completed by dealerships in an effort to remodel or expand their dealership properties here in Cerritos. This has resulted in over $700,000 in development fee revenue that the city has received from those projects. By supporting the facilitation of upgrades to one of the Auto Square's primary advertising mechanisms, the city is continuing to demonstrate its commitment to the Cerritos business community and, in turn, supporting the potential for increased sales tax revenue that may be derived as a result of the sign upgrades, which, as I mentioned, would ultimately be reinvested back into the community. This support is consistent with the City Council adopted strategic plan implementation goal of retaining and attracting Cerritos-based sales tax generating uses, and also assist in drawing additional patronage to the Auto Square. As such, tonight it is recommended that the City Council review and discuss the proposed request from the association and authorize the city to provide financial assistance in an amount not to exceed $892,181 memorialized by an agreement between the city and the association, prepared by the city attorney to include a loan agreement for 50% of the cost in order to facilitate upgrades to the existing digital advertising sign along the 605 freeway. This concludes my presentation. At this time, I am available to answer any questions the council may have. We do have tonight in the audience representatives from the Cerritos Auto Square Dealers Association, 2 dealerships, and the sign operator, and all of them are available to answer any questions the council may have as well. Thank you.
Okay, Kristen, before I open to the rest of the council, I just want to reiterate, and confirm what you said earlier in your presentation and what I remember from 2013. What we're doing right here, what you're asking for, recommending, is the same that we've already gone through. And the dealers, did pay off the loan. Just everything went according to what was written 10 years ago, basically.
That is correct. At the similar arrangement in 2013, where there was a loan agreement between the city and the association made all payments on time, and the loan was paid off within 5 years of the arrangement in 2013.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open to public comments. Is there, let me check here. Okay, I do have 2. We have Dave Homerud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name's Dave Holmrud, and I'm the general manager at Norm Reeves Ford and Lincoln. And just Art, on behalf of the Norm Reeves Group, Dave Conan, and the Auto Square, I just want to say thank you for your years of contribution. Robert, welcome and congratulations. Thank you guys all for being here, and to the city staff, thank you for the recommendation, and to the council members, thank you for the consideration. And I just want to state that the proposal is in line with the same proposal that has been accepted and executed on time with payments from the Auto Square for the last 3 sign refreshes. And so it's nothing that has not been done by the city before. And for note for everybody, it is the belief of the Auto Square that a very large portion of the $14 million in sales tax revenue that we get annually for the city is a huge contribution from the sign on the 605. So we'd like to thank you guys for your consideration, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, before you walk away, are there any questions of Dave? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Frank, go ahead.
Just wanted you to know the staff told us it's $15 million in sales tax revenue every year. So I wanted you to have that higher number, okay?
No, the 50
I'll go with the
is
15,
everything
Frank.
combined.
No, he said 14 million in sales tax revenue, and it's 15 million in sales tax revenue that the city receives from your 1.5 billion in auto sales annually. So thank you.
I appreciate the correction.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
And next is Sam Desai.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, friends. My name is Sam Desai. When I saw Auto Square digital freeway sign and a business association can come to the city for loan with our new city manager, I thought, let me please come and ask that as you approve this economic development opportunity, you do it also for all the other businesses. Because thanks to city staff, we have relevant data of all the businesses over the last few years. I propose that we take a percentage of revenues which we allocate to loans. We have 50 million in sales tax revenue coming in from these amazing business owners. And it's an association. Our city staff, they have looked for new ideas of generating revenues, and this is a great opportunity to work out how much loan is available through our city, and I'm not talking about grants, the loans to other small micro businesses, and we can divide them based on sectors. We have huge industrial sector. We know we want economic growth over there. So if we can divide this loan that we are giving, and it is mainly for digital campaign. And you know, digital campaign can be a signage, or it can also be through digital means, social media. Our small businesses, if we can create an association, I'll be happy to propose it, lead it, structure it. It could be even interest-free for this pilot project as we are doing this third digital approval. We will give same programming assistance and prompt city-sponsored events in this new association if you give us that loan. It could even have its own digital private newspaper. Local media. We can show micro businesses can also get these micro loans and show economic benefit. Right now, individuals who come to you for loans, small business owners, people who invest in Cerritos, we see as if they are special interest. This council has great opportunity to see forward. If you're going to give loans, make it for all of us. If it's digital, we have a program, we will create an association. Give us a green light, give us a signal. When we come and speak to you, it's not me, it's the data which is coming from our own city with active database of businesses in different sectors, which also brings revenues and value. And we do want to grow alongside Auto Square and show that to you. So please consider that. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Malik Banda.
Hello. Again, I wanted to tell something. Some thought came to my mind, but I realized that I don't know the full comprehensive story about this proposal. So, but all I see is a 50% grant and 50% loan that I can see. But of course, we have to support our businesses. Business supporting is very important because they generate revenue. It has to be hand in, to give and take, because we take something from them, we give something back to them. But of course, it should depend on according to your policies. Like there should be a policy. Like for example, somebody else comes tomorrow, they want the same proposal. Would you extend the same thing to them? Because if you do to one, then you have to be prepared to give it to others because they all are taxpayers. So that is one thing. You may be having policy, but like I'm ignorant on this topic. But all I wanted to say is obviously we should support our businesses. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Wolf. I don't know how much business loans are going, but 4% seems sort of low. If you're going to be lending out money, I think that, are you able to answer my questions or am I just making comment?
You're here to make comments.
Okay. So I don't know if 4% is a reasonable amount or not, but it's something that if we are going to be lending out money to businesses, we need to make it comparable to what they would get at a regular bank. And I'm in agreement with Sam letting other businesses have this opportunity as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council on this item? Seeing none, we close public comments. Look to council for direction.
Move to approve?
Can I please ask a question?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor, but go ahead.
Thank you. Kristen, thank you for this report. And, again, I really appreciated the numbers. The numbers put into perspective the financial contribution the Cerritos Auto Square, the world-renowned Cerritos Auto Square brings to our city of Cerritos every year, year after year. And your report today gives us the most recent numbers that the 1.5 billion in annual sales generated through the sale of 60,000 vehicles each year. And that 1.5 billion annual sales, your agenda report tells us it's about 15 million in sales tax revenue each year. And that's fantastic. And that 15 million is just limited to what the Cerritos Auto Square dealers, that 15 million in sales tax revenue, it's just from the people buying the cars at the Auto Square. And it's not all the other sales that are happening because people are coming to Cerritos, going to the Auto Square to buy cars while they're there, maybe before or after they're eating or shopping at the mall or doing other stuff as part of their trip to the Auto Square. So that's one way this 15 million is not really accurately conveying the full sales tax revenue benefit of having the Cerritos Auto Square in our city. But I was reading this and I wanted to confirm with you, Kristen, and the dealers, is this 1.5 billion in annual sales generated through the sale of 60,000 vehicles each year, does that include also the revenue they get from repairs and the sales tax we get from the parts that are sold in those repairs? Is the 15 million in sales tax revenue each year that the city of Cerritos receives from the Auto Square, does that 15 million include the sale of cars and repairs, or is that only the sale of cars?
Thank you, Councilman Yokoyama. I would actually defer to the finance team who derive this information from our sales tax consultant, HDL, or Mr. Lucci might have additional context as well.
Yes, Council. The sales tax is only on the sales. The work that is done in the back of the shops, which is a tremendous amount of money spent there, is not taxed. There's no sales tax off of that.
Just the parts.
Just the parts.
Yes, so how much annual sales of parts does the Cerritos Auto Square have? And then we get 1% of that back as sales tax revenue on the sales of the parts. And I've in my discussions with the auto dealers, their financial success is dependent on their customers coming back and servicing their cars at their dealerships. That's why they establish these relationships, and just not repeat business on sales, but also repeat business on repairs. Isn't the sales of the parts where sales tax is generated, isn't that a significant amount of the revenue that the city or Cerritos Auto Square dealers make, and therefore the city of Cerritos makes? Do we know the number? Does anybody know the number?
If I may, council member, we receive our specific sales tax data, including this regional data specific to the Cerritos Auto Square, from our sales tax consultant, HDL companies. They do not provide us that specific detail, nor am I even sure that they have access to that specific detail of parts versus auto sales. As Mr. Gallucci mentioned, typically service is not a taxable sale. But as far as the distinction between actual sales of automobiles and sales of parts related to any sort of service, we are not provided that level of detail. And I'm not even sure that our consultants have access to that we could inquire with them to see if they could provide that sort of information.
Thank you for that information, Peter. However, I know, my colleagues know that, services usually are not taxed, but sales of merchandise is taxed. And I know when I bring my car to Cerritos Nissan, when I bring my Nissan Sentra to Cerritos Nissan for service or for tires, there's sales tax, an amount of sales tax on my bill that I pay Cerritos Nissan. And I know that 1% of that is going back to my city of Cerritos. So thank you for also generating a lot of sales tax revenue for our city and therefore for our residents from the significant amount of repairs that you dealers do. It would be fantastic if we can get that number someday, somehow, on how big that number is. I can only speculate because, I'm not the expert like you guys or my finance department, but someday it would be great to know how much over $15 million a year are you guys generating for the city of Cerritos on top of the 15 million we're getting from the 1.5 billion in just sales of cars. Thank you.
Okay, we're looking for a second first.
I'd just like to make a comment real quick too as well, if possible. I just want to say that I want to thank the AutoSquare for coming over and having this relationship with the city. It's very important that residents understand that we're a low property tax city, so generating sales tax revenue is important for the city to provide the services that are needed by the residents. People sometimes mistakenly think that when they pay their property tax that a lot of that money comes back to our city. It does not. We gave that up a while ago, and we only get a small percentage of that. So this city is reliant on sales revenue, and being that the AutoSquare has this relationship with the city, the city of Cerritos, we're known for a lot of things, but one of the bigger things we're known for is the Cerritos AutoSquare. San Francisco is known for Fisherman's Wharf, and Hollywood for the Hollywood sign and so forth. So that's Cerritos, we're known for the AutoSquare and amongst other things. And I know when I go to conferences or events and I tell people that I'm from Cerritos, a lot of times they will sing the Cerritos AutoSquare tune. Or if they don't know it, I'll remind them and they'll know the tune. And so it's important we develop that relationship. It has been developed, and we continue to have that relationship with the AutoSquare. As you can see, the revenue that they bring in is important for our services to our residents. So there's questions I know out there. It's probably wondering, why are we providing this loan? Why should we do it? Ultimately, it's because the revenue that's generated provides services to our city and to our residents. So that's why it's so important for us to have that relationship with AutoSquare. With that, I'll second the motion.
Okay, I'd like to also add one thing to that. The video that was produced, I think Dave Conant mentioned in it, one of the early things that attracted the early dealers was the fact that there was a partnership involved to make this work. It was a collaboration. It wasn't just that we're looking for a source of revenue. We're looking to have something that help build our community. And the dealers, it took many of them a while to figure out that this was a good relationship between the city and us. And that attracted more dealers, to us, made it more successful. I voted on this concept. You mentioned multiple years on it, Dave. I think I voted on it at least 2, if not 3 times, over my years on the council. With that, I'm pleased to go ahead and ask Cindy to go ahead and move this forward so we can vote.
Thank you, Mayor. A motion was made by Councilmember Johnson and seconded by Councilmember Vo to approve staff's recommendation. You may now enter your vote on the screen. Are all final votes entered? The motion passes on a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda, by the way, Dave, if you can pass on to Dave Conant, congratulations again. Legislative items, item 10.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Staff does not have any legislative items to present this evening.
Okay, reports.
Thank you again. There are no city manager reports this evening.
Okay, I do have a note that Chung
no.
is asking.
I just gave you that so you can read it at the end.
Okay. Well, this is the close of memory of Rami. Hard job, Rawaj. Council Communications, Chung, can we start with you?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah,
Okay.
can you go first?
Okay, sure. Sorry. I just want to report that last week I attended the League of California Cities Conference, and I flew up there to participate in a possible vote. And so, unfortunately, there was no resolutions on the floor, so I returned. But I just want to report that real quick. And then along with that, I just want to ask my council and the mayor to close in memory tonight of Romy. I don't think I'm saying this right. I'm going to try, but Bajwad. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to say, Romy was my appointee on my community safety committee. He served the city, but before he even served the city as a community safety member, Romy was an individual that always served his neighbors, his community. He, one of his biggest achievements, and this is how I got to know him, was that in his neighborhood years ago, there was a lot of break-ins and a lot of criminal activity in his neighborhood. And the reason why is because it's located pretty close to the freeway. And instead of just constantly complaining about it and not doing anything, Romy decided he's going to form a neighborhood watch, being one of the captains there. And it wasn't just something that he just did just to get people together. He brought the neighborhood together as a family. One of his amazing achievements was that he started the license plate reader as a private neighborhood, and got his neighbors to contribute money, and then installed a license plate reader, a private one, on a residential yard. And with that, they were able to access cameras for their neighborhood, because there was only one way in, one way out of his neighborhood. And hearing that and meeting him and seeing his dedication to the safety of his neighbors, he just expanded that even further when he became a community safety committee member, by being just recently the chairperson of that committee, serving the members of that committee, but then also expanding the neighborhood watch program. One of the things that I tasked my two appointees on the safety committee was that by the time they're done with their term, and I know this is probably impossible, but I wanted to give them a go, and the goal was to get every single neighborhood in this city to have a neighborhood watch block captain, and to continue the neighborhood watch program. And I know for a fact he and my other appointees, as well as the committee that is present, has worked really hard along with the staff to achieve or get closer to that goal. Romy was an interesting guy, and I'm sorry I'm taking some time. He's always got a smile on his face. He's always joking around. I know staff, the ones that know him, knows him, that he's always joking. One of his beloved involvement was always to the sheriff's department. He would invite members of the sheriff's department over while they're on duty to come over to his house, and they have the captain here, so I got to be careful how many deputies showed up to his house and eat his barbecue and all that stuff. But they would always come by. He would always invite them, And I know at one time, he hosted a neighborhood watch, and I was invited, of course, and I came there. And one of the things that Romeo was good about, he was so very generous to his guests and everyone that participated. He always say, "Come over, I'll cook some steaks, or I'll make I'll grill some stuff." And I'm thinking just a regular barbecue, show up, and my gosh, it was like a feast. And he would pay for it all. He would make sure his neighbors are always invited. And his steak was not just a regular steak. He would go out and buy large ribeye steaks. And when I saw that, I was thinking we're going to just go split it in half or quarters because it was so big. But no, he would throw one large ribeye steak on every single person's plate if they wanted it. And that was just how generous he was. And, he definitely is an example for all of us to live our life happy and enjoy ourselves. And I just can't say enough about him, obviously, because, he's done so much. But sadly, he did pass away unexpectedly. And I know his funeral was just recent, and I thank Daryl for attending that in my stead. And Romy leaves behind his wife, Shelley, his daughter, Dia, and his son, Krish. And I just want to put it out there that, because he served so well, that I know that this city will always be there for that family, his family. And, Krish is at the same age as my son. I've taken Krish on mountain biking rides with my son, and I just want to just say how much we're going to miss him. So with that, I'd like to close in his honor and his memory. Thank you.
Certainly, thank you. Linda?
Thank you. On September 15th, I attended the barbecue fundraiser for Cerritos employee Steve Garuli. On September 17th, I was at the CCPA and watched Dire Straits. On September 20th, I attended the Community Safety Town Hall meeting. Thank you to Captain Drew Strong and Daryl Evans for their presentation. On September 26th, I was at the funeral services for Romy Bardwaj. Thank you to Daryl Evans, Mark Smith, Deputy Welby Cham for their attendance as well. And on September 27th, I was at the Artesia State of the City, presented by Mayor Monica Manalo. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank?
Thank you. Last week, I also attended the League of California Cities annual conference. It was a very informative event. And, for example, I brought back some information about code enforcement to our public safety manager, Daryl Evans, that I received at the conference. And in addition to the sessions, one of the things that I enjoyed doing was attending the sessions and the meetings of the Asian Pacific Islander Caucus. That is a reflection of our city, which is over 60% AAPI. I'd like to thank the immediate past president, Artesia Council Member Ali Taj, for his appointment to me of this past year. I was the vice chair of the Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations Committee of the League of California Cities. And I'd like to thank incoming president of the League, Fowler Mayor Daniel Parra, for appointing me for this upcoming year to be the chair of the Governance, Transparency, and Labor Relations Committee. Earlier today, actually, just before the city council meeting, I attended the brand new STEAM building reception over at Mayfair High School. It was fantastic to see that the bond that was approved by the voters brought them a brand new STEAM building. And as we all know, or we should all know, is Mayfair High School is part of the Bellflower Unified School District, which is one of our school districts here in Cerritos. Our Cerritos families, our Cerritos kids go to that school district. They go to that high school, Mayfair High School, and they now have a brand new STEAM building to benefit them in the years to come. Another thing I wanted to share is I got a surprise text, a surprise email from a friend that he told me that he saw my public service announcement. And I was happy to hear that because I was wondering, because at a conference I attended, they were offering the electeds to do public service announcements. And I did a public service announcement against bullying. And, you know, that's important to me that we stop bullying because, you know, my son's in high school and I have nieces and nephews in preschool through high school. And so when I went to the conference and they gave me the list of topics to do a public service announcement about, of course, I was going to do it against bullying. The thing about it is Spectrum told me they're not allowed to tell the electeds because of rules. They're not allowed to tell the electeds when they're going to show the public service announcement. So finally, a resident told me that he was getting ready for work. A friend told me he was getting ready for work and he heard my voice and he looked at the TV and it said Cerritos Council Member Frank Aurelio Yokoyama, and it was me doing my public service announcement against bullying. So thanks to that person for letting me know he saw it. The thing that was interesting is he doesn't even live in Cerritos. So whatever their method of doing these public service announcements, a non-Cerritos resident saw my public service announcement. Maybe someday a Cerritos resident will tell me they saw my public service announcement. So sort of similar to that is, my friends know that one of the things I do during the day while I'm working or driving is I like to listen to sports radio. And so, for example, I listen to LA AM 570 Sports Radio. I'm a fan of sports radio. I'm a fan of Petros and Money. And it was such a blast a year ago when Petros and Money invited me to be on their show, and I got to talk about the city of Cerritos on the Petros and Money show. What's so funny about that is just when I went to just earlier this month, a friend of mine who also listens to sports radio told me Petros and Money even today still sometimes bring me up. Whenever they talk about something that Cerritos comes up, they talk about how, oh yeah, remember Councilmember Frank Yokoyama came on our show. So I love those guys. But I also listen to ESPN LA 710 Sports Radio, and I just wanted you to know, Jeff, for the last few weeks, they've been talking about the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts, right? Did you know that? So ESPN LA 710 on their afternoon show, they are talking about the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts because they're talking about the 98 degrees. So I think it's in connection with some sort of a contest or some sort of promotion. But our Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts, your 23-24 season, because of 98 degrees and because of somebody here in Cerritos City Hall or you and your team, the last couple of weeks, ESPN LA 710 has been talking about 98 degrees in the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts. I'm hearing it. So a lot of sports fans are hearing that. Okay. Lastly, today is National Sons Day. So I just want to say a shout out to my best friend, my son, Maddox Thomas Yokoyama, who's a Cerritos High School junior. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Harish? Okay. This is the appropriate time to go ahead and say we are closing in memory of Rami Barjawa. And we are going to close session for a legal item, and if we can get a report.
Of course. Thank you, Mayor. The council has 4 items this evening on set for closed session. Item 12A is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Consider initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.94 sub D4.
Okay, and if I can cut you off, the next 3 are not for discussion tonight.
No, but I'll just read them just in the record, but I don't think we're going to be discussing them, is my
Okay.
understanding. And then items 12B through D are public employee performance evaluations regarding the city manager, city attorney, and the city clerk/treasurer.
Okay, thank you. We will come back out and report any action taken during closed session.
Mayor, real quick, I just want to just mention one thing, if it's okay. That tomorrow night is the Moon Festival, Lunar Moon Festival. Starts at 6 p.m. at Heritage Park. It's where you can come out and celebrate the Moon Festival. And for those who don't know, the city will provide the lanterns, and you can light a candle, make your wish, and then you can release it onto the water, and it floats, and it makes a really good picture. I've seen a lot of pictures all over, people taking it. And we're the only one that provides it for free. I know there's other companies out there that are doing it right now, and they're charging people for entry, and we do not. So hopefully everyone can make it 6 p.m., and then we'll release a lantern once it gets dark at Heritage Park. Thank you.